Wall Street. October 1929. Black Thursday. In a single week, the American stock market collapsed, fortunes evaporated, and the world tumbled into the Great Depression. And here's the unsettling bit: every generation since has sworn it's about to happen again. Why should you care about a crash from nearly a century ago? Because the same forces that caused it, borrowed money, blind euphoria, and pure panic, are still alive in markets today. Understand 1929, and you'll understand every crash since. So, 3 questions today. What actually happened in 1929? Why did one dreadful week become a 10-year catastrophe? And is the doomsday crowd right that it's coming back? Stay with me. The ending isn't what you'd expect. Picture the 1920s. The war was over, the economy was roaring, and ordinary people discovered the stock market. From 1921 to 1929, the Dow rose roughly 6-fold. Everyone was getting rich on paper, and nobody wanted the music to stop. Now, the dangerous part: margin. You could buy stocks with just 10% down, borrowing the other 90 from your broker. Put up $100, control 1,000. When prices rise, that's marvelous. When they fall, well, quite. Here's the maths nobody did. On 10% margin, a 10% drop doesn't just dent your money, it wipes out every penny. Millions of people were balanced on that knife's edge, utterly convinced stocks could only go up. Legend says investor Joe Kennedy got a stock tip from his shoeshine-boy in 1929 and sold everything. His logic: when the lad shining your shoes gives share tips, there's nobody left to buy. The story's polished, the lesson is real. By the summer of 1929, warning signs were everywhere. Factories were slowing, farms were struggling, and shares cost far more than the businesses behind them actually earned. But euphoria is death. The market hit its all-time peak on September 3rd, 1929. Then came October. On Thursday the 24th, Black Thursday, panic broke loose and nearly 13 million shares changed hands, a record. Tickers ran hours behind. Nobody knew what their stocks were worth. Crowds gathered on Wall Street, dreading the worst. Bankers tried a rescue. They pooled their money and ostentatiously bought shares to calm everyone down. It worked for 2 days. Rather like patching a dam with wallpaper, I dare say. The weekend gave everyone time to think and to panic. Monday, October the 28th, the Dow fell nearly 13% in a single day. Tuesday the 29th, Black Tuesday, it dropped almost 12% more on 16 million shares. 2 days erased fortunes that had taken decades to build. Now the margin trap snapped shut. Falling prices triggered margin calls, brokers demanding cash immediately. Investors who had none were sold out automatically, which pushed prices lower, triggering more calls. A self-feeding spiral of forced selling. Down and down and down. And it didn't stop in October. The market rallied, faded, rallied, and sank for nearly 3 more years. By July 1932, the Dow had fallen about 89% from its peak. $1,000 had become roughly 110. Here's the figure that should give you a chill. The Dow didn't climb back to its 1929 peak until 1954. 25 years. An investor who bought at the very top waited a quarter of a century just to break even on paper. So how does a stock crash become a decade of misery? Banks. In 1929, there was no deposit insurance whatsoever. If your bank failed, your savings simply vanished. So when rumors spread, everyone sprinted to withdraw first, the dreaded bank run. And banks don't keep your money in a vault, they lend it out. No bank on earth survives every customer demanding cash at once. In the early 1930s, thousands of American banks collapsed, taking entire families' life savings down with them. The Federal Reserve made it worse. Later scholarship, notably Milton Friedman's, argues the Fed tightened money precisely when it should have flooded the system with it. The money supply shrank, prices fell, and a recession hardened into the Great Depression. Then Congress piled on the Smoot-Hawley tariffs in 1930, taxing thousands of imported goods. Other countries retaliated, and global trade collapsed. Most economists agree it deepened the slump. By 1933, roughly 1 in 4 American workers had no job at all. So mark the chain: euphoria, leverage, crash, margin calls, bank runs, policy blunders, depression. The crash was merely the spark. The fire spread because the financial house had no smoke alarms, no extinguishers, and frankly, no fire brigade whatsoever. Now to the modern question: why does every generation become convinced 1929 is returning? Because every generation sees echoes. 1987, the Dow dropped 22% in one day. 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. 2008, banks failed. 2020, a pandemic plunge. The uncomfortable truth? Fear sells. A headline screaming "crash incoming" gets far more clicks than markets. Fine, carry on. Some pundits have built entire careers on permanent doom. As the old joke goes, they've predicted 10 of the last 2 crashes. There's a psychological wrinkle too. Losses hurt roughly twice as much as gains feel good. Psychologists call it loss aversion. Your brain takes the doom-monger seriously. He sounds prudent. The optimist sounds naive, even when the optimist keeps being right. To be fair, some echoes are genuine. Sky-high valuations, speculative manias, meme stocks, anyone? And clever new forms of leverage do rhyme with the 20s. Whenever you spot a frenzy where everyone simply can't lose, a little dread is healthy. But here's what the doom headlines conveniently leave out: the guardrails. After 1929, America rebuilt the entire financial system. Allow me to show you 4 changes that make the precise 1929 doom loop, crash, bank run, depression dramatically harder to repeat. Guardrail 1. Deposit insurance. Since 1933, the FDIC has guaranteed bank deposits up to $250,000 per depositor today. If your bank fails, the government makes you whole. That alone diffuses the panic that destroyed the 1930s. Guardrail 2. Circuit breakers. If the market plunges 7% in a day, trading halts so everyone can breathe. Further halts come at 13 and 20%. In 1929, panic fed on itself for hours. Today, the exchange simply pulls the plug. Guardrail 3. The Fed learned its lesson. Modern central banks act as lender of last resort, flooding the system with cash in a crisis, not strangling it. You saw it in 2008 and 2020, imperfect, debated, but the opposite of 1930. Guardrail 4. Margin rules. Regulation now demands 50% down to buy stocks on margin, not 10. Leverage still exists and still ruins people, but the entire market is no longer balanced on a 10% sliver of real money. Now, the honest caveat: none of this prevents crashes. 2008 proved markets can still fall by half. Guardrails reduce the odds of a 1929-style death spiral. They don't repeal fear and greed. Anyone promising it simply can't happen again is overselling. So where does that leave you? Here's the middle path. The shouting matches miss. Nobody, not pundits, not professors, not even a remarkably well-read Sasquatch, can reliably time a crash. But history shows the market has survived every single one. Through the Depression, a world war, oilshocks.com 2008, and a pandemic, the American market has, over the long run, kept reaching new highs. The lesson isn't that crashes don't happen, it's that crashes haven't been the end. So, 3 rules straight from 1929. Rule 1. Never use leverage you can't survive. The people destroyed in 1929 weren't merely wrong, they were borrowed. A crash you can sit through is a setback. A crash on margin is a funeral. Rule 2. Keep a cash reserve. Several months of expenses in savings means you'll never be forced to sell investments at the bottom just to pay rent. Forced selling is what turned 1929's paper losses into permanent ones. Cash buys you patience. Rule 3. Keep investing through the fear. The investors who quietly kept buying through history's worst years bought at the century's best prices. Diversify, automate it, and let the doom headlines rage. Boring, steady, relentless, that's the strategy that survived everything. And do give yourself permission to ignore the profits. You don't need to predict the next crash, you need to be built so a crash can't break you. That's not complacency, my dear viewer, that's preparation. There's rather a large difference. Shall we recap? The 20s, euphoria and 10% margin. October 1929. Panic from Black Thursday to Black Tuesday. Then margin calls, bank runs, and policy blunders, an 89% fall and a depression. Today, real guardrails but no immunity. And your 3 rules, worth more than any forecast, no leverage you can't survive, cash reserves so you're never a forced seller, and steady investing straight through the fear. Splendid. You now understand 1929 better than most people predicting its return. Now then, a question for the comments. Could a 1929 scale crash happen in your lifetime, and would you keep buying through it? Tell me below, then like, subscribe for the smartest, simplest explanation of anything, and share this with a nervous investor.